Two easy calls for the Dodgers. Max Muncy and Alex Vesia are back. One tough goodbye. Tony Gonsolin's time in LA looks like it's over. And depending on how the Dodgers approach this winter, Dalton Rushing's name might be one to keep an eye on.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, two no-brainer decisions that keep Muncy and Vesia in Dodger blue. Tony Gonsolin's time with the Dodgers is officially up, what it means for the 40-man roster, and could Dalton Rushing be the next homegrown up-and-coming star traded away, Travis?
It certainly is possible. The offseason comes at you very, very fast, even when you are the back-to-back champ. In today's episode of Locked On Dodgers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase.
You can catch more of Travis weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on the 710 ESPN LA app and on 710 ESPN LA on your radio with the Travis and DeMarco show. As for me, I'm the Spanish play-by-play broadcaster for USC football and the Las Vegas Raiders. But when I'm not calling touchdowns, I'm right here doing what I love most, talking Dodger baseball with you. New around here? Welcome to the family. Glad that you found us. If you're an everydayer, you already know what's up. You're the heartbeat that keeps Locked On Dodgers going. Muncy and Vesia, no-brainer decisions, no surprises. The Dodgers made two decisions this past weekend that honestly felt like checking a couple of obvious boxes. This is how long they took to make that decision. Ready? All right, that was all the time they needed. Max Muncy, 1 year, $10 million. Alex Vesia, 1 year, $3.65 million. Both club options exercised, and both guys will be back in 2026. I mean, Travis, it's as no-brainer gets.
Yeah, these are two of the best bargains in baseball. These are two guys that are not only, pretty good, but they're essential to what it is that they've been able to do the last couple of seasons. Let's start with Vesia. And obviously, with the news that has come out more recently about the reason that he missed the World Series, everybody is feeling for him in a way that's almost indescribable. But just purely from a baseball standpoint, Alex Vesia is a talented left-handed reliever who, perhaps most importantly, is incredibly consistent. Like, that is a very difficult trait to find in the bullpen. Alex Vesia has been a really good Dodger since he came over from the Marlins a while ago, and just continues to get put into higher and higher leverage situations. And to have a left-handed reliever that you can put in there that's going to compete like crazy, that's popular with the fans, and, oh, by the way, is being asked to do more and more. Before he was kind of an opener guy, and then he was a middle guy, and then he was a late middle guy, and now he's one of those guys. As we got deeper into the playoffs, it felt like maybe he was going to pitch some of your more high leverage relief innings. So him coming back at $3.5 million, that is a steal at twice the price. So a no-brainer there. And Muncy, look, Max Muncy is not going to end up in the Hall of Fame. Max Muncy, when you're listing the great third baseman of all time, you're not going to put him in there with Mike Schmidt and George Brett and Wade Boggs and those guys. But for Dodger fans, he's as important as it comes. I mean, for Dodger fans, this is a guy that's hit more home runs in the postseason than any Dodger ever. He's closing in on the Dodger all-time home record. He may or may not get there, but this guy has been an absolute rock for this team for multiple seasons, 3-time World Series champ, and to get him at $10 million, forget about it. Just easy money for the Dodgers. That had to be the easiest decision they're ever going to make.
Yeah, Muncy's power still plays. I mean, look at that home run in Game 7 in the 8th inning. Without home run, Miguel Rojas isn't in the position of being able to hit that game-tying home run in the 9th, or at least have it. We'll be completely honest. The moment that Muncy hit that home run, what was in everybody's mind? Shohei's got a shot now to come up to bat and tie the game. It ended up being Miguel Rojas. It doesn't matter who hit it, as long as they hit it, and the Dodgers were able to have the opportunity to win the game, to win the World Series, and that's what they did. It wouldn't have been possible without Max Muncy. His leadership is huge in that clubhouse, and the way that when he wasn't in that lineup in July, we noticed it big time. It killed the team. They were in their worst position possible throughout the 2025 season. He comes back and it's an immediate change. Even if it was only for a week and then he was injured again back on the IL, you notice that it's like, hey, if he's in that lineup, in the middle of the lineup, with his patience, with being able to see the way that instead of strikes, balls are coming his way and he's not swinging, it gives him a completely different dimensions. Of course, 100 games played this season isn't ideal, but it wasn't like he asked to get hit in the knee by a runner from the Chicago White Sox. He just went to make a play, and it's what happened. 19 home runs, 67 runs batted in, and then in the postseason, huge. You mentioned it. He passed Justin Turner's playoff record. It's elite company that he's in when it comes to Dodgers history, and it's incredible, Travis. He arrived to the Boys in Blue in 2018. I mean, you're talking about nearly a decade. He's an anchor for the squad, and $10 million. I know for somebody like you and me, Travis, that's like huge money in baseball terms. That's like a bargain.
Free. It's practically playing for nothing, especially compared to where you look around to the rest of your Dodger teammates. You mentioned a lot of stuff in there, Harry. I want to go over because I think you made a bunch of great points. I got a bunch of heat on my radio show when I mentioned at the beginning of the season that somebody asked me, how does somebody that's not Ohtani or Betts or one of those guys win an MVP? And what I said was, the way somebody like Max Muncy could win an MVP is to just clean up where all of these other guys missed, to play every day, to go out there and hit your 35 or 40 home runs and just be the guy that has just got this statistical season that is undeniable. And then, of course, Muncy gets off to this terrible start and everybody's giving me a hard time, et cetera, et cetera. Then we saw then he got hot, then he got hurt, and it's like, wait, where's Max Muncy? The Dodgers win when Max Muncy is in the lineup. He may never be the MVP of the team, but he's incredibly important. As far as the regular season and missing time, you're right, he did. It was a bit of a drag, but man, I'm not so sure, Harry, if the Dodgers haven't just kind of, I don't know if I want to say punted on the regular season, but just saying, hey, look, we're going to get in because we got a bunch of good players, and then we'll turn it up to the highest level in the postseason. So I think that's a big part of it as well. And you mentioned that late inning home run that he hit. That unfortunately, not him, not Dodger fans, but just baseball fans in general, that home run is going to get lost to time. Like you know what it reminds me a lot. And if you're a Dodger fan that's roughly my age and you're, late 40s, early 50s, you may remember this. Mike Scioscia hit a home run off of Dwight Gooden in the 8th inning of the NLCS in 1988 that allowed the game to go into extra innings. Mike Scioscia never hit home runs, and it was the home run that kind of allowed Kirk Gibson to hit the home run in extra innings in the NLCS. Ultimately, we know what happened. The Dodgers win the World Series later on. But you need some of those moments that just get you to the moment, and Muncy was a huge part of that.
Yeah, when it comes to Vesia, you already spoke about his credentials, and our prayers are with him and his family. A very, very tough situation, and that definitely, it's like, hey, when they announced that he was going to step aside from the situation and the way that press release had been announced, we knew it was something serious, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family. Indeed. Him, 68 appearances, 3.02 ERA, and there was only one guy with more innings pitched and more appearances that was primarily a bullpen guy, Anthony Banda. But let's remember, Vesia ended up on the IL for around a month towards the end of the season, and he was rock solid. You mentioned he was like one of those guys that it didn't matter in which situation he was put in. If it was in the middle of the game, it was late in the game. If it was a closer, he was delivering for the Boys in Blue. And he's another case where it's like he arrived to the Dodgers 2021. That trade that also brought in Kyle Hurt. I mean, it's been a while now. That's nearly 300 games in LA as a reliever. That's nuts. And he's been as reliable comes with the Boys in Blue.
One of the things that I always find really interesting is how do Dodger fans react to guys, right? I think Dodger fans, for the most part, are pretty good fans, pretty sophisticated fans. They know what it is they're looking at for the most part. I've never heard a Dodger fan complain about Alex Vesia's effort or competitive spirit, right? Like sometimes they're guys that go out there and they just feel like they're just kind of going through the motions. They're nowhere near the strike zone. It feels like they're just up there chucking balls, and it's not a life and death situation. It is not one of those things that you're just competing. With Vesia, it's always that. That guy is just a relentless competitor. And even on days where he doesn't pitch well, there's never a sense of, man, was that guy even ready to play? You never see that with him. He is an incredibly high energy. You can tell he's one of the leaders down there in the bullpen. Maybe he's not the classic ninth inning closer, slam the door sort of relief pitcher, but you could use a bullpen full of Alex Vesias, and I'm thrilled that he's back.
One thing I love is, like, Travis, you've been working in sports media for over 2 decades. I'm getting near 2 decades myself. When you guys go to our social media, you see how, first and foremost, we're Dodgers fans, and then we're guys with microphones that we earn our livings and put a roof over our head talking about sports. But it's like we celebrate Dodger baseball. I've seen all of you on social media when you celebrated the World Series. I think Alex Vesia has even more intensity than us, and he's out there on that mound. Whenever he gets a big out, you see that celebration, and that gets our blood pumping even higher. So yeah,
Dodger fans respond to that. Like that, you could. It's real. Like when you get guys that you know are competitive like that and invested in it like that and emotional like that, they're going to respond to it. And perhaps most importantly, Harry, I appreciate you only giving me 2 decades, because believe it or not, it's actually 3, so that you thought I'm young enough to only have 2. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
I said over 2 decades just to play it safe. I didn't know if it was like 25, 30, a little bit more.
Yes.
Hey.
If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the hairline right here. That is a 3-decade hairline for sure.
A 3-decade career in sports broadcasting. So yeah, easy calls for the Dodgers. Smart moves and exactly the kind of stability you want as you build the rest of your roster. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, one not so easy move maybe, saying goodbye to a former All-Star.
The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on all of that NBA action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you miss the start of the game, maybe you do want to miss the start of the game. Maybe you want to see how the game starts to unfold, and maybe you want to see who's got that hot hand. FanDuel, they have live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to that big fourth quarter comeback that you see coming. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at, what do you think? Yep, you're right, bigger payouts. So why not keep every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push to crawl back into it? And right now, FanDuel is making it even better, because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe for free. Smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and more. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. Tony Gonsolin DFA'd, end of an era, start of a roster reset. He was designated for assignment over the weekend. That's a sentence that hits hard for some if you've been watching this team closely over the past few years, because just a couple of seasons ago in 2022, he was an all-star. His record, no, this isn't just a mistype, 16 wins, 1 loss, and a 2.14 ERA. He looked like a long-term piece in this rotation, and one of those guys that you had where it was like perfect. He's one of those roster guys that isn't going to cost you a $300 million contract like Yoshinobu Yamamoto. But the injuries just never stopped Travis. Elbow issues, surgery, rehab setbacks, and now with another operation on the books and his next realistic return date being mid-2026, it just didn't make sense for the Dodgers to keep him on the 40-man roster.
Yeah, I understand why they made the decision that they made. Here's the good news for Tony Gonsolin. Tony Gonsolin will find a team in about a quarter of a second, right? He's going to land on his feet, and he's going to pitch in the big leagues, assuming that he can get healthy again, because he is a major league pitcher. I think this is much more about the Dodgers having having an advantage, we talk so much, or I should say other people talk a lot about how the financial advantage that the Dodgers have, and they do, and their television contract and everything comes along with it. But their biggest advantage is the ability to develop players, their ability to find real value where others have not. Tony Gonsolin was a really good pitcher in the major leagues for a pretty decent amount of time, and they developed him from inside their organization. Yes, you go out and you buy a Snell, you trade for Glasnow, you sign Ohtani and Yamamoto, sure, but those guys, if we've seen the last couple of years, miss a great deal of time. The guys that have kept the Dodgers in this are guys like Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin and Emmett Sheehan and Robleski and Grove and Stone and all of these guys. Kasparius, all of them are all homegrown guys or low dollar guys, and that's been the real value. The Dodgers have so many starting pitchers that they can let a guy like Tony Gonsolin move on to his next team, and you really don't deplete the pool all that much. That's not because Tony Gonsolin isn't good. That's because they have so many guys. He's been a really good Dodger for a while. Like you mentioned, he made that All-Star game not that long ago. He was a guy that took the ball knowing when he wasn't 100%. We know how rare that is nowadays. Usually when guys are anything less than perfect physically, they kind of shut it down. He tried to grind through it and gave the team a great lift while he did it. The Catman, again, not going to go down in the annals of greatest Dodger pitchers of all time, but a very important player to an organization in the golden age of Dodger baseball.
Absolutely. The Dodgers now, they'll have 7 days to either trade him, release him, or see if another team claims him, because he could technically still clear waivers and head to the minors, but because he has had over 3 years of Major League Baseball service time, he can elect free agency instead, which I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. And it's a tough ending for a guy who gave this team some incredible moments, but at the same time, you just have to make the smart moves. And for the Dodgers right now, it's like, okay, who do you prefer keeping on your roster? The younger guys, the guys that are up and coming and that did a great job in 2025, or Tony Gonsolin, who actually played for the Dodgers this season, but unfortunately got hurt, got surgery, and will be out for 8 to 10 months.
The Dodgers have the thing that, it makes it tough on guys like Gonsolin, on May, on those sorts of guys, is that they have so much talent in the pipeline that you can be replaced at any point, that they can move on from you at any point. And that makes it very difficult. So when those guys are able to stick, and Tony Gonsolin stuck for a long time, this was not the guy that goes, he's going to be the one that makes an all-star team. He's going to be the one that picks up the ball in postseason games and competes in big games. And he was, and it's a testament to him. And I expect him to do well wherever it is he goes next, but it's just a numbers game. There are only so many roster spots. There are only so many starting pitcher spots, and the Dodgers have done the impossible, and they have more good pitchers than they can afford to carry on their roster.
And Travis, when I posted on social media about it on TikTok and Instagram Reels, and I said, shocker, people was like, what do you talk about, shocker? I was like, well, because it wasn't something that was being talked about left and right, where it's like Gonsolin is going to leave this team. Gonsolin is going to be cut, even though it was probably a move that made sense. It wasn't something that everybody was talking about, where it's like no chance in hell that Michael Conforto makes it back to this team after finishing his contract. So best of luck to Gonsolin, but he wasn't the only move that was made on this roster, because they added 2 names to their 40-man. Outfielder Ryan Ward, and lefty Robinson Ortiz. And Ward, he was an interesting name that was being mentioned left and right, because he led all of minor league baseball with 36 home runs in 2025. He's a Joe Bauman award winner for this year at 27 years old, and he has proven that he can mash at the AAA level, but there's a reason why he wasn't called up. And it's like, okay, his fielding isn't the best. So do you just want to bring somebody that can mash, but then you got a liability out in the outfield? You already have that in Teoscar Hernandez. So The Dodgers obviously see something more, that they didn't want him to leave in the Rule 5 draft, so they brought him up to the 40-man.
Yeah, it's interesting because a couple of things. Number one, the Dodgers needed some help at variety points in last season, and that he was never the play makes you go, because he was absolutely killing it in AAA. That he had the year that you just mentioned, and that they never went there is surprising, because it did feel like there were a couple of all hands on decks moments, and anybody that could help, let's go, let's try to see what they got. The other thing is, for 27 in baseball terms is old, right? It's old to be a minor leaguer at 27 years old and still kind of have that label of prospect on you without having gotten a real shot to see what it looks like. I'm glad that they're going to give him one. We'll see. There's that gap between you're too good for AAA, but you're not quite major league. The old expression is 4A player, and only there's no 4A league. We'll see what it looks like. I'm intrigued by it because he had a really good year, but there are a couple of things that make you scratch your head a little bit that they never brought him up in his age, or two of them.
Yeah, and Ortiz, meanwhile, he's a 25-year-old lefty who quietly climbed the system this year, a 2.73 ERA across all four levels with an impressive 28% strikeout rates. Both were added to avoid precisely them becoming free agents before the Rule 5 draft, a clear signal that the Dodgers want to see more of them in 2026. Now, to make room for these guys, the Dodgers outrighted Justin Dean, and Michael Groven. Dean was already claimed by the Giants in like less than 3 hours. He was already gone to San Francisco, and he'll be remembered for that play in Game 6 with him raising his hands and letting the ball go and being a defensive replacement throughout the whole postseason, when honestly, neither of us thought that he was going to be on a postseason roster. He was in each of the 4 rounds.
Justin Dean is going to be one of those guys that's the answer to a trivia question, right? It's who was in center field when the ball got lodged in the wall in Toronto in Game 6, and the Dodgers won because of a ground rule double. And Justin, I was surprised he was on the roster. I'm glad he was. He did, the one time he had to do something, and I mean this, I'm not being a smart aleck when I say it. Like, if he gets that wrong, if he doesn't know to throw his hands in the air, Dodgers probably lose that game, and we're not talking about back-to-back championships. So he certainly did the job that he was asked to do. I don't know if we're talking about Justin Dean in the middle of next June saying, hey, who we could use is more Justin Dean. I don't think that's what this is. But, yeah, good job on that play, and I will get the trivia question right when I'm asked it in 2038.
We both will, and a lot of our listeners as well. I'm pretty sure you will over there back at home. And Grove, a pitching prospect, second rounder by the Dodgers, another guy that was hit by injuries. He played with the Boys in Blue 3 seasons, 22, 23, 24, but the shuffle continues. This front office is clearing non-essential pieces and protecting upside classic Friedman guys that will make this team keep on going.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a problem that maybe only the Dodgers have. I don't know if there's another team in baseball that is letting go of guys that are clearly major league caliber on the mound, right? Like every team in baseball would die to have one of these guys be in their bullpen, maybe even be at the back end of their starting rotation. Tony Gonsolin, when healthy, is probably a front end of the starting rotation guy. We've seen Michael Grove pitch really well for the Dodgers at various times. So again, these guys will land on their feet. They're going to get major league jobs. It's just going to be somewhere else. The Dodgers just have too many good players and not enough spots to put them.
And speaking of this, next on Locked On Dodgers, Dalton Rushing, great hitter, blocked by Will Smith, and potentially the next big name on the trade block. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fellow fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets, delivered on time, and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. The app makes it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Rodgers, just like Dodgers, but replace the D with an R. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. If you want to see a very cute dog in a college football booth, go to my socials and you'll be able to see my boy Raider over there. Travis, Friday traffic in LA was a pain in the butt. We weren't able to drop my dog off with my parents and make it to the Coliseum on time. So we took my dog to the booth and he was a very good boy. So if you want to see that video, head over there and check it out. I always said, I hope I get as big as Kirk Herbstreit someday so I can take my dog to games. And accidentally, I ended up having to take my boy into the booth.
You're on your way. Raider did you a solid and was a good boy during the broadcast. That's very good news. And SC got a win too. Maybe it's good luck.
Trojans are 1-0 with him there. Maybe I got to take him to Dodger Stadium in the future. Someone who Dodger Stadium he was there last year is Dalton Rushing, but is he a future star or a future trade chip? Let's talk about him because the kid can hit. We know that when he has gotten some sort of consistency of consecutive days of being out there, he's one of the best pure bats when it comes to the Dodger system. Great discipline, legitimate on-base skills, but here's the issue. He's blocked. Will Smith is one of the best catchers in all of baseball. He hit the game-winning home run for the Boys in Blue in the 2025 World Series. He caught every single inning of a World Series that featured both an 18-inning game and an 11-inning game and went 7 games. He's under team control. He's in his prime, and he's the engine behind this pitching staff. So where does that leave Dalton Rushing, Travis?
It leaves him in a really weird spot. It leaves him with really probably going to spring training with a glove in his bag that is not a catcher's glove. He's got to find another place to play because for all the reasons that you just mentioned, Will Smith is one of, if not the very best catcher in baseball. And the Dodgers have him under a long-term deal, which actually is a very favorable deal for the Dodgers. It's not a particularly high dollar deal considering it's stretched out over a long period of time. And where it gets complicated is, yes, you're going to have to carry 2 catchers. I actually got a chance to talk with Dalton Rushing this season out at Legends Attic. In fact, I'll be out at Legends Attic on Friday if you want to come out and say what's up. And Miguel Rojas is going to be out there, a bunch of other Dodgers as well. But and when I was talking with Rushing, the challenge for him was it's the first time in his life he never played every day. It's the first time where he had to wait to get at bats, where he had to just kind of sit around and not be exactly sure when he was going to play. He didn't hit much. He only hit 4 home runs. He barely hit 200, and he only had about 150 plate appearances. Now, you'll want to get him some big league seasoning to see what it looks like. And I'm with you, Harry. He looks like a big leaguer to me. Like, he looks like he belongs in that league. But Will Smith's going to play a lot. There's no place to put you in a designated hitter role on the Dodgers. Shohei's going to fill that role every single day. So you got to find somewhere else to play. And that somewhere on the Dodgers is really probably limited to left field. That's really the only other spot you might be able to find your way onto the diamond. Whether or not he can do it, we'll see. I mean, other guys have done it. And left field is not, it's not shortstop. It's not trying to do what Mookie Betts has done. But it's also left field in the major leagues. He's a hard worker. I know that he's invested. I know that he cares a great deal. But just like we've been talking about all episode here on Locked On Dodgers, there's a lot of traffic on the road to be an everydayer on the Dodgers, and his route is blocked by a future Hall of Famer potentially. So he's going to have to relearn a new position or go somewhere else to be an everyday catcher.
Yeah, some fans like the idea of potentially moving Will Smith to first base once Freddie Freeman's contract is up, but that's still 2 years down the line, and Freddie will be 38, not necessarily ready to hang him up, and that would still leave Will Smith behind the plate, the position that Dalton Rushing has primarily played. In the meantime, Ben Rortvedt came out of nowhere and quietly made a strong case as the backup catcher. He's a defensive first catcher, a better game caller because the pitching staff out of nowhere just kicked it into another gear when both Will Smith and Dalton Rushing were hurt, and pitchers love him. So again, what do you do here with Dalton Rushing? And this feels eerily similar to recent years, Travis, where you see a Michael Busch be traded, a great hitter that was just blocked by depth chart, goes to the Cubs, and he's an absolute stud. He's an all-star out there in his first opportunity he allows to be a starter.
Yeah, Michael Busch is a perfect example of that, Harry. You're right. He goes to Chicago and he becomes a really good player. Zach McKinstry is in Detroit. Zach McKinstry made the All-Star team this year in the American League. He couldn't crack the Dodger starting lineup. So maybe Dalton Rushing has a similar fate. I do think that there's, the Dodgers, I'm sure, have a better feel for this than anybody. But the success that both Rushing and Rortvedt had with their pitching staff, I don't know if that had anything or all to do with their ability to call. Because think about the pitchers. You're talking about Glasnow, Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani. Kershaw, and these guys. They are the most veteran group of guys. They know what they want to call. They can, the way it's set up now, you can call your own pitches from that thing on your belt. So I don't know how much of a role they played in that. Maybe it was a ton. I'm just saying that's something that kind of soared through. Rortvedt doesn't hit. I think where the question gets is if you could get something for Dalton Rushing, if you could flip him for an everyday outfielder, I think that the return on a player like Rushing would be much higher than a return on some other guys. So if that's where they want to spend some of their assets, in this case, player assets, I wouldn't hate the idea. I really liked the kid when I got a chance to meet him. I hope that he gets to stay. But this is the big leagues. You got to hit, you got to play, and given an opportunity last year, we just didn't get to see enough of that.
Yeah, and in the same way that Michael Busch got dealt, so did Keibert Ruiz, so did Gavin Lux, James Outman, all part of that same conversation at one point where it's like they're great prospects coming up on the system, but they're blocked in their natural positions. Some stayed, some didn't, and Rushing could headline, like you said, a trade for potentially, I don't know, a top-tier closer, which, by the way, we're going to talk about tomorrow on Locked On Dodgers, because his value is sky high, and maybe it's the point where you strike for it. And look at the Dodgers. They had, no disrespect to Austin Barnes, he was one of my favorite players for the Boys in Blue with all the time that he was there. He was never that guy where it was like, ooh, we might be able to trade him somewhere else to get big value in return. And the Dodgers know that they have a top-of-the-line catcher where it's like, okay, we got Will Smith. He's going to play 80% of the games. Let's just go through the 20% of the games with somebody that we could trust in Ben Rortvedt, that he might not be the plus bat, but he's a great defensive player. That's something, too, that behind the plate, nothing was getting past him. And he's a guy that might not hit 300, but he became reliable in that month that he was starting for the Dodgers.
No, he really did. He did an incredible job for them, and I take absolutely nothing away from the contributions that he brought to the team. He was wonderful, full stop. I think the flip side to Rushing and Rortvedt, or it probably applies more to Rushing than the other, but the Dodgers are getting old. And not just getting old, they might be old, right? Like Freddie is an older player. Mookie's an older player. Muncy's an older player. Teo's an older player. Ohtani is at the very end of being a young player, right? Like he's kind of right smack in the middle. They need younger bodies. They need to start turning this over. Think about with Corey Seager and Cody Bellinger, and you've got to turn this over every once in a while. And I think that Rushing is part of the turnover. It's just, I just don't know if it's going to happen in time because Smith and so many others are playing so well, so late into their careers.
No doubt about it. And Rushing, I feel that he's too good to be a backup. So whether he's in Dodger Blue or part of a blockbuster, Rushing's future is one of the most fascinating storylines, in my opinion, of this offseason. Okay, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back with more Dodgers talk tomorrow. Same place, same passion. Does LA need an elite closer? Should Cody Bellinger come back home? And is Andy Pajes just James Outman 2.0? We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real. Keep it Dodger Blue.